Oh, stop, Tim. How about you tell us, Milo?
Well, he's a British guy.
Wait, no. Let's hear it. Milo's willing to call me out on knowing it, not knowing it.
I don't know what it is.
Milo doesn't have a shit. Doesn't know
what
either.
it is.
He'll complain.
So with Thanksgiving coming up next week, and my full endorsement to show up to that Thanksgiving dinner wearing your America First MAGA gear to entice the lefty Democrats in your family to engage in the conversation. And then in that conversation, it will give you the opportunity to correct their lies, the things that they've been brainwashed with truth. And there's two options, right? They'll either get mad and leave, more turkey and mashed potatoes for you, or we might actually get somewhere with this country, right? In that conversation, I expect this statement to come up because I've been hearing it more and more lately, which is this country, the United States, is not founded in Judeo-Christian values, which in my opinion is completely a lie. And so that's what we're going to address in today's video as we look at this debate between Milo and Timcast employee Elad Eliyahu. I hope I said his name right, because Milo is about to give a complete lesson in why and how the United States is actually founded in Christian values. And if there's time at the end, I'm going to include a video from Charlie Kirk where he breaks it down very simply. Well, I say simply, I mean, his mind works like other people's can't, but he breaks it down in a condensed version, which I've been thinking about a lot lately, so I just wanted to share it with you guys. But that's if there's time, right? This is going to be a rather long video, so stick with me. If you're thinking about clicking away, stay with me another couple minutes. It'll really help out the channel, and I feel like this conversation is actually a valuable one to have. And with that, also keep in mind that this video exists because when that conversation comes up at Thanksgiving, you can refer back to this video to show it to your family and not even have to make the argument yourself. But with that, let's go ahead and just get it started.
Appeal the 17th.
I'll just get rid of all of them. Get rid of all of them. Listen, what Adam said, okay, was that the Bill of Rights, meaning everything after the Constitution, the amendments, was suitable only for the government of a moral and religious people.
That's right.
And what he said, what he meant by that was Christians, okay?
Why wouldn't he
You
say
cannot
Christian explicitly then?
Well, because...
Everybody was Christian.
because it was a,
Then why wouldn't he say it explicitly?
because it was a given.
you don't need to.
Religious,
No, guys,
religious,
Elad, you're wrong.
religious
good
freedom.
Christians,
Religious
too.
freedom in the time of the founders was about competing Protestant denominations,
Yeah.
and those competing Protestant denominations, they wanted to avoid wars between Calvinists and you know, Presbyterians, whatever. So religious freedom was designed to stop civil wars among Protestant denominations, and moral and religious people meant to the founders and everybody else at the time Christians. You cannot give non-Christian people unfettered access to speech or guns. It doesn't work, and it's not working, because if the First Amendment, basically the way this country is set up is morality is outsourced to Christianity, okay? You have a huge amount of freedom, unprecedented freedom for people to choose good or to choose evil. And the presumption in this country is that morality will be governed by a set of Christian norms. Even if people aren't like practicing Christians, they kind of inherit the sort of a fundamental understanding.
Elad is shaking his head. Nobody's wrong. I just want to say that.
The idea that the first, second, and our amendments are only made for Christians, I think they would have explicitly said that. Our country,
Elad,
I think, was
Elad,
founded
I gotta pause you
on
right
the
now.
explicitly the opposite,
Elad,
and they
no.
would have said Christian explicitly.
I gotta
The
pause.
writers of our constitutions were all lawyers.
And I got to pause. With all due respect, you are completely wrong, and you need to read all of what the Founding Fathers had written about this, because it is fairly explicit.
Yeah, and I think there was a range of religion amongst them,
what
and I
you're
think they
saying
would
is
have
not true.
explicitly
The range of
said-
religion was the range of religion was Presbyterian, Unitarian. You know, the range of religion was Christian religion. There are no Jewish founders. There are no Muslim founders.
Elad,
There are
I
no
think they could have
Buddhist
I think
founders.
they're smart
There
enough
were
to
no
have explicitly
atheist
said
founders.
that.
Let's pause a second.
It was taken as a
Elad,
given.
let's start with the Fifth Amendment. Do you know why the Founding Fathers created 4th, 5th, and 6th?
Specifically, no. But
It's the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. It is literally, as the spoken word of the Founding Fathers, Benjamin Franklin said, it is better that 100 guilty persons escape than one innocent suffer, which was a play on Blackstone's formulation. It is better that 10 guilty persons escape than one innocent suffer, which is literally written. And real quick, the story was, Sodom and Gomorrah, it is better, you know, if but one righteous person exists, I will not destroy this land. It was literally the Bible, which is why they said we should enshrine this in our Constitution.
And the inalienable rights that Americans enjoy are given by God, and they don't mean Ashanti Chakra. They mean the Christian deity.
I don't think they.
In every,
I think they would have said so. I think you guys are really overlooking
grow
how
up.
intelligent and
Okay.
smart
grow
the
up.
founders were, and if they thought Christian
found-
and they
you've-
wanted the country
you
to
found-
be explicitly
you've-
Christian,
you've-
they would have explicitly said so. And
show-
like I
this
think
show-
Elad,
that's why you guys have to read into it. That's why you guys have to read it into it.
I gotta stop you.
A Jew
You
telling you
haven't
to
read
read
any of
between
this.
the lines.
I have,
because
I have read a lot of the foundational documents, and they would have explicitly written in
when he
Christianity.
asked you about 3, 4, and 5, could you have read them out? Do you know what they are?
No, not explicitly. Not explicitly. But that doesn't. I'm not rejecting.
don't know the
I'm
amendments
not
you're talking about.
rejecting-
Everyone
I'm
else at
not
the table does.
rejecting the religious
found the-
influence
you have
on our
found-
founding documents. I'm
Tim-
saying they would have
Tim,
explicitly.
you've done it again. You found the only stupid Jew.
Moral. and-
My favorite. Okay, guys, hold on.
why don't you think they
Guys,
would have
what an extraordinary-
included Christian in the
Distinguished show
code
that-
of
okay.
moral
We
and
found the only retarded. Sorry, I didn't mean that. Sorry. I know I'm not supposed to say that. Sorry.
Let's pause
Elad,
real quick.
they-
Real quick.
they-
In 2024.
They were
I never
saying-
know. I never know.
When they say a good and moral people, they believe that other religions are immoral because that was the
Including
standard.
yours.
The standard
think
back
so.
then. That was
I
that
think they
was.
would have said so
The
explicitly.
phrase.
Excuse me. Let me
Just because I know that you are a recovering libertarian, my dear friend Phil. That's not the expression. The expression is a moral and religious people.
Fair enough.
Okay,
Fair enough.
And
okay.
the
Now-
religion is Christianity.
Now I want to pause. My favorite amendment is Amendment 7. Okay.
What's Amendment 7?
Off the top of my head, I can't tell you. How about you tell us, Milo? Stop, Tim. How about you tell us, Milo?
Well, he's a British
Stop.
guy.
Wait, no. Let's hear it. Milo's willing to call me out on knowing it, not knowing it.
I don't know
Milo,
what it
and
is.
Milo doesn't have a shit.
I've no
Doesn't
clue
know
what
either.
it is.
He'll complain about Dr.
okay,
Oz
okay.
being a dual citizen. He's only a British citizen, so it's really rich.
Okay,
Oh,
Elad. I'd like to open up to anybody else.
So
who
funny,
knows.
Milo
Any
talking
of you
this
guys know
trash.
this?
Doesn't that-
Okay, Elad, please. Guys,
So
does
rich.
anybody else want to take a strike at the 7th Amendment?
I don't know if that's
I don't know anybody.
No one knows this one.
Nobody knows
because-
this one.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter. The 7th Amendment matters, sort of. It's the right to jury trials in civil cases so long as it's over $20. Now, here's the funny part. Back then, $20 was nuts. Today, $20 ain't nothing. So there is a dramatic change in what that amendment means based on inflation and Federal Reserve policies, which I find hilarious. That being said, Elad, there are numerous writings. Now, I will stress this. There were some founding fathers who were deist. They believed in God. They didn't follow Christian moral teachings. But your argument is a classic and incorrect argument which doesn't actually look into the letters, the writings, the books. What you're saying is, why didn't they explicitly state this?
I mean, it's in the
They
It's in the
didn't-
Declaration of
it's the
Independence.
fish
It's the fish and water argument. Okay. So let me start you here.
I think they were purposefully inclusive.
how about
the
I
founding
finish?
fathers were purposefully
How about I
inclusive.
finish?
Sure.
Do you know how air was discovered?
Do I know? It wasn't officially ever discovered.
Yes, it
because
was.
we
You are
live in
completely-
air.
you are completely
Air was
incorrect.
discovered. Okay.
You are completely incorrect.
When was water discovered?
Air.
Please don't make this guy your White House correspondent. My God in
Elad.
heaven.
When was zero discovered?
It was a concept. It kind of always existed. It was not.
Oh my God.
It didn't always exist
already
beyond our
know it did
understanding
not.
of it.
Humans did not have a concept of zero. It was discovered. Humans did not know that air existed. They thought there was nothing here. It was the ether. There was an energy that you could feel. And then one day, some dude, they used to use these bronze orbs with holes in them and a straw. They would dunk it in water, put their thumb over the back, lift it up, and put it over themselves. One guy goes, "Hey, what happens if I put my thumb over the back and then put it in the water?" Hey, no water went in the
Something
little
must
ball.
be displacing.
Something is displacing the water. And then he said, "Guys, I got an idea." And that's when we discovered there was actually matter and mass all around us. Why didn't they write about air? It was in them and around them 24/7. There's no reason for the founding fathers, who
Correct.
were 99.9% Christian, to say, and don't forget, we're all Christians in this room, right? Let's write it down.
Except him also to say
wait,
it is
in a lot
there.
of
In,
other
it is
countries
there.
that
In,
does happen,
except to
though.
say it is there in the Declaration of
Muslim
Independence.
countries that does happen.
It is
though.
there. It is
It's
there.
Muslim and they still explicitly say it, so-
In all of the founding documents, God is actually present as well. It's just that they don't feel the need to say it in every clause.
But they never mention Jesus, and there's no mentions to Christianity. Just allusions to moral and religious people. I think John Adams is smart enough that if he meant explicitly
but
Christians,
moral-
he would have said Christians specifically.
He did.
Moral
He
and
did.
religious.
He did. You
Not in
just
this
haven't
podium.
read any Adams.
No, you're
Elad,
wrong. You're
let's
British.
pause. Let's
You
pause.
think you know a lot
Elad.
more about American politics than
Elad,
you do.
how come our law books don't explicitly state that it only applies to humans?
Why do you,
I don't think these are
so,
like
so,
kinds.
I
don't think these are-
so in
Is it
America,
because we assume, as all humans, we're not applying laws to dolphins?
in American courtrooms until
fact, dogs are
very
exempt from these
recently,
laws.
until very recently in criminal trials in American courtrooms, what book do you swear on so that everyone knows you're telling the truth?
I think it's your own religious
Is it-
book.
is
so
it the
whatever
Talmud?
religious book? I think if you're
Is it the Bhagavad Gita? Is it the Dead Sea Scrolls? No, it's the Bible. Grow up.
Do you know what percentage of this country right now is Christian?
depends on how you define it, but at least 60,
No, it
70%.
doesn't. It's
Yeah, it does.
self-reported in
I don't know. Are you
surveys.
discriminating between
It's about
Christians,
70
Catholics, which denominations?
No, they're all
They're
Christians.
all
It's-
Christians.
Okay,
It's in
70%,
surveys.
give
It's
or
about
take?
70%.
Okay.
Right.
And
It's a
if you-
Christian country.
And do you know what that number was in like the 60s?
Probably closer to 90.
Did you hear that?
99?
Did you
Okay,
hear
yes.
that? Did you hear that? Congratulations.
If you
Could
go
be
back,
nice to the your ruling elites, you know.
if you go back even 50 years, this country is
Might
about
serve you better.
95% Christian. If you go back 100, it's 100% Christian. There's very few people who weren't. Maybe some immigrants from Asia were, Buddhist or Confucianist or whatever.
And they would
But there-
never have been
there are
imagined
some Muslim,
that they
there are
would have been running for
Muslim
president.
countries who, despite being 99% Muslim, still decide to enshrine their religious law explicitly. Islam
But they're not
explicitly
America,
in
and
their
that's not what America
constitution.
did.
Okay. Okay. Did they do it in Britain at all? Did they?
Let me ask you a question.
Is Britain a Christian country? I'm not sure. Maybe you could tell us about Britain instead of America.
The King of England is the head of the Church of England.
I don't know. That's why I'm asking the
can't-
British guy,
I
not the
can't-
American citizen.
I can't believe you don't know this, but the British monarch is also the head of the Church of England, which is the Anglican Church.
Yeah.
So in Canterbury Cathedral has an archbishop who is the sort of religious, if you like, the chief executive.
We're going to skip forward a little bit because I'm not that interested in knowing some of those details about the monarchy over in England. They summed it up right there that the Queen of England is basically in charge of the religion or whatever like that. So, yes, the English government is based in religion, right? Christian religion.
So, Ilad, I got a question for you about the Second Amendment. Do you know what it is?
Yeah, the right to keep and bear arms. I know
you
that one,
recite it?
Milo. Necessary to the security of a free
Let's
state.
start from the beginning.
Roughly,
just being
I'm
mean
messing
now.
up.
You're being mean
Necessary-
now.
No. I'm not being. Hold on.
being cruel.
I am not being mean.
This is the one I know.
This is my point. And
Necessary to the
it's not to put him on the spot to say you can look it up. I don't care.
I'm not looking it up. I'll
A
quote it to
well-regulated
the-
militia
Wait,
being.
all right, well, you got the well-regulated. I forgot that part. A well-regulated militia necessary to the security of a free state. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Keep
The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. What does it mean? Why did the founding fathers want that written in? What was their intent?
I think the attitude of the country at the time was of rebellion, and they were thinking that they needed to maintain being armed.
He wanted to continue the state of rebellion. Makes total sense.
No, well, they saw the tyranny that existed when they weren't armed, and they wanted to give the ability and the God-given right.
Why didn't they write that? Why didn't they include that in the amendment?
The God-given part?
Why didn't they write everything you just said down?
Because they spoke in lawyer talk and not.
So just one sentence. So, but clearly, if their intent was rebellion, they would have included for these purposes to
Well,
oppose.
a well-regulated militia, I guess, to prevent. I mean, that part could be argued that.
Why didn't they write it down?
The whole thing?
Why didn't they write down what you're saying?
They were quite prolix people. I mean,
Because
they
there
were-
are
they wrote
wait,
many
wait.
thousands.
There are
wait,
more
hold on.
implications that aren't explicitly laid out in.
Elad, the point is this.
You mean implications
amendment.
that aren't explicitly laid out, like moral and religious people, meaning Christian?
This is my
No,
point.
I don't think those are like
Elad.
kind. Still, I still don't think
This
these
is
are
my
like kind
point.
comparisons, though.
You're asking why they didn't write Christianity in a Bible when they were all Christians and assumed everyone was. And you're also stating that there are things they meant that they did not write down later. So which is it?
I just think you guys are reading into this quote really hard.
Answer the question I'm asking you.
Repeat it.
Were the founding fathers leaving out information that was assumed, or were there things they intended to include they didn't write down?
There were things left out that people.
Could that be that everyone in the room was Christian, so the assumption was moral and religious meant Christian?
It could be, but I don't think that's what he's referring to in this quote. I think it's much easier to say if you explicitly mean Christian here. Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. If he meant specifically Christian, I think it's an obvious thing.
I don't think
and
he
in
meant-
other
Hold on. You made one point.
Do you think Muslim majority countries they say so explicitly?
Elad, you made a point. Your point will be answered to. Don't gish gallop. Satanism is not a religion that the founding fathers would have considered to be moral and religious. right?
I agree.
Nor is Judaism.
Well, I don't think debatable. I think they would have
Not
said
debatable.
Judaism is moral and religious.
Not debatable.
What other religions did they mean here?
Not debatable.
Besides moral,
None.
besides
None.
Christianity,
None.
they only meant Christianity.
None.
Then I don't see as to why
None.
they wouldn't say that explicitly. If they only meant Christianity by moral and religious people, John Adams here, I think he would have said so explicitly. I think
let me
it's
ask you a
more
question.
inclusive than that.
Were they
explain-
Christians?
I
Let me
can
real quick.
explain why.
Some were, some weren't.
Well,
Were they Christians? Some were and some weren't. Not
all,
all of them were
all the
Christian.
founders were some form of Christian. I'll explain.
And now the question then is,
Let me-
do Christians typically say that other religions are correct?
I think the
come on, the
Christians
answer is
call
no.
Jews the chosen people. I think the Christians say the Jews are
Elad,
chosen
there's
people.
no,
So something about
right.
that. No,
Christians don't go around
Christians
saying, well, the
believe in
Mormons got a
Jewish
point.
Torah, if I'm not mistaken.
So
Maybe
the-
one of you Christians could
the-
tell me more about it.
In order to demonstrate this, you can look, for instance, at the highest authority in America, which is not the president, it's the Supreme Court. Things are decided in America in courtrooms. The courtrooms are the places where America's national dramas play out. Okay.
Real quick, I'd like to say to Elad that Judaism doesn't recognize Jesus as the Son of God, right? And so they definitely, to Milo's point, wouldn't be included in this scenario. And to Milo's next point, guess who invented courts and judges? It was Moses.
Okay. Whether it's Roe versus Wade, the abortion debate is framed in terms of a court case, right? Whether it's the OJ trial, which told white America there might be a problem here. I don't think blacks are buying into this thing that we wanted them to do post-emancipation, right? I think actually maybe they're just going to vote with other black people, and maybe we got a problem here, right? To Trump, to the Bush-Gore election, all of America's great national dramas are played out in the courtroom. Okay, and the Supreme Court is the highest authority in this country because they get to choose the president if no one else can make their mind up.
Yeah.
Right. So
They can also rule on whether the president go to jail.
of course, and in that place, they are holding their verdicts against a constitution that is based on Christian principles, such as oath breaking, the commandment against bearing false witness.
Right.
Which means if you make a contract with somebody else, you stick to it, and if you don't, they can sue you, and you got to pay them.
This is actually
That flows directly from the Christian commandment about bearing false witness, just like all the other laws and just like the Constitution.
one more point.
And we're going to skip this next section just to kind of keep it on point.
Right.
So if you don't know anything about this, and you don't read the Federalist Papers, and you don't understand how all this stuff comes, it's easy to. And we can apply this to the First Amendment too. What is the First Amendment really for? It is to provide people with the freedom to do good or to do evil, right? It's to provide them with the free will to be saved or to be damned. Okay, and they can stand or fall on their own words, and no other man can say, you can do this, you can say this, or you cannot say this. Freedom is not really a Christian virtue, but it exists in the Bill of Rights because it provides people with the ability to do right or to do wrong, and then be judged by it in the hereafter. Okay, and to be able to express yourself in whatever way you want is a radical, dangerous, and unprecedented level of freedom that has not really existed in society or civilizations before this. That is only possible because it was assumed that America would always stay Christian. And as America has become less Christian, both of those first two amendments have begun to become a problem, particularly the first one, because we now live just to demonstrate how wrong you are. Now that we live in a post-Christian America, which I think it's fairly unarguable that we do.
Let me pause real
beginning
quick.
to see-
Real quick, just make a point. And even though the country is 70% Christian, I believe large quantities are not practicing or
Well, they're
paying
not,
attention. Or voting.
Yes, but I mean, sure. There's a lot. I mean, people who believe in prosperity gospel and whatever. I wouldn't really class as,
But continue.
Thank you. Now that we live in what is, in many ways, a post-Christian country, and I don't think it's because of that. I think what it really is that a country is its cities, right? A civilization from civis, the Latin means to live. It means to live in cities. Civilization means to live in cities, right? And a country is its cities, and we've lost our cities, right? And the cities determine the character, the laws, and the nature of a society, of a nation. We have lost our cities, and our cities are definitely post-Christian, if not actively anti-Christian. So I think that's probably really what I mean. Now, that a given, what is the result of that? Well, the First Amendment has provided for this creation of two completely different parallel fact universes that Americans now live in. There's the universe that you live in if you are, we could this is an oversimplification, but if let's say it's left and right. Let's say it's Democrat, Republican. Okay, it's not a very satisfactory way to talk about these categories. Maybe better would be like Bernie, Trump versus Hillary, Romney, right? But there are two completely different fact universes that Americans now live in, and every single issue that you talk about, whether it is moral or practical, has an A and a B that you have to choose between. And most people just line up with their tribe, okay?
Yep.
We live in these two completely different fact universes. This is a psychic fracture, a damaging, dangerous psychological rift that has opened up in the heart of the country that has made America schizophrenic. It has given America, and this is a product of freedom shorn of Christianity. This is a problem of a First Amendment without the restraining influence of Christian moral teaching, which tells us that we must adhere to the truth, which holds in the transcendentals beauty, truth, and goodness, that we must always aspire to do those things that are good, beautiful, and true, and that promote unity, depending on which church fathers you read, okay? Take Christianity out, and the First Amendment is a mendacious liar's charter that rewards the people who lie the most audaciously and without honor and without regret. And it has created this psychic break in the country. That is what happens, and the founders knew this. That is what happens when you have a First Amendment shorn of Christianity.
It lifted the guardrails off morality.
So we know that this argument is correct because we have witnessed what happens when you take Christianity out of the equation.
And let's add to that with the Fifth Amendment. You end up with defense of the worst vile criminals. You end up with people being released.
Yes.
So I always phrase it like this. And again, Christians, hey, I'm not a Christian, but I recognize logic.
We'll get you.
Okay, now we're going to switch to the end where Milo addresses a super chat. And I just appreciated this answer. I think it's a well thought out. And he actually even says this is one of the most important things that he's learned. So I wanted to include it, and let's just let it rip.
Carl Smith says, Milo, in the immortal words of Mr. Rogers, the one thing that evil cannot stand is forgiveness. I think that is the quote, at least.
Yes, and you know, something that has been really, look, I'm paid a lot of money by all kinds of people whose names I can't mention because they're not supposed to know me, to do, in some cases, quite awful things to people. But the thing that hurts your enemies the most is to tell them that you love them, that you forgive them, and that you wish the best for them, that you are praying for them, and that you want them to be better than they are. And I've always tried to take that kind of, that it's not really a speck, really more of a huge shard of dark flint in my heart that enjoys, Schadenfreude and all the rest of it. And I've tried to channel it for good, and I've not always succeeded. I've not always done a perfect job of this, but I'm getting better at it. And I try to use that a bit of me that I don't always love so much for good. And so, I've learned through my occasional churlishness and cruelty that nothing hurts somebody who kind of knows that they're doing wrong and kind of knows that they're screwing up, like you telling them that you forgive them and that you love them and that you hope that they see the light and that they, that they come home to the Lord and that they come home to the truth. And honestly, it's the greatest lesson I've learned in the last 10 years.
And so I know I promised at the beginning that we're going to play a clip from Charlie Kirk. I understand this video is getting a little long, but I just feel that it's so important to include. So hopefully you enjoy this next part if you've watched this far, because I think it's a valuable lesson for us all to understand so that we can actually repeat it. It's important for us to even memorize if we can, so that we can repeat it in the face of these the questions whenever people bring up the concept that our nation wasn't founded in Christian values. So let's go ahead and check it out.
I articulated yesterday by a couple of my friends that our country was not founded on Christian principles. Our country was founded on common law because the Declaration only refers to God 4 times and the Constitution doesn't refer to God at all. And it only articulates the structure of government.
Remember that we were a collection of states and colonies, and you need to read the state constitutions before anything else. 9 out of 13 of the original states required you to be a Bible-believing Christian to serve in government at the time of the founding. You could even in actually 13 out of 13 required a declaration of faith. 9 out of 13 required you to be a Protestant, except Maryland, which was Catholic, which still required a declaration of faith. In almost every single one of the original state constitutions, Pennsylvania included, they had I profess Lord and Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior in the original state constitutions. So you remember, we're a collection of states before that. Secondly, 55 out of 56 of the original signers of the Declaration were Bible-believing, church-attending Christians. You asked about common law. So common law is inherited from Blackstone, who was Christian. Common law is an outgrowth of the scriptures. So let's go to three principles of common law: presumption of innocence, due process, and jury of your peers. All three are biblical principles. So, and all wrapped into the ultimate biblical principle that you shall not favor justice if you are rich or poor, which is in Leviticus 19, right before the most famous part of Leviticus 19, which is that you should love your neighbor as yourself. But before that is that in the administration of justice, you shall not favor the rich or the poor, which is the idea of blind justice. We get that in the West, which is incorporated also in the New Testament ideal: neither slave nor Greek nor Jew, you are all one in Jesus Christ, which we get the idea of human equality. These are all biblical ideas. They're not Enlightenment ideas, which is they kind of get conflated at the time. But more importantly than that, they say that God was only mentioned 4 times in the Declaration of Independence. Well, that's a big deal, okay? Laws of nature and nature's God. The last paragraph of the Declaration reads as a prayer. It says, we appeal to the supreme judge of the universe. Who's the judge of the universe? Jesus Christ, as it says in Revelation, that Jesus will judge the earth on his throne. So in the Declaration, they were praying to Christ our Lord as a prayer very specifically. Thirdly, as I said on stage yesterday, Deuteronomy was by far the most quoted book, religious or non-religious, in the time of the founding when they were putting together the Constitution, more than John Locke, more than Montesquieu, more than Blackstone. So the book of Deuteronomy, which talked about laws, customs, traditions. It was Moses' farewell address as he's about to say goodbye, say, hey, good luck in Canaan, guys. Here's how you should set up your form of government. But finally, and most importantly, let's look at actually what the founders said. John Adams famously said the Constitution was only written for a moral and religious people. It was wholly inadequate for the people of any other. The body politic of America was so Christian and was so Protestant that our form and structure of government was built for the people that believed in Christ our Lord. One of the reasons we're living through a constitutional crisis is that we no longer have a Christian nation, but we have a Christian form of government, and they're incompatible. So you cannot have liberty if you do not have a Christian population. So that's just a surface level belief. So then they'll go to the First Amendment, which has two parts of the First Amendment which get conflated. First of all, separation of church and state is not in the U.S. Constitution. That is a single letter that Thomas Jefferson wrote in 1807 to the Danbury Baptist Convention in Massachusetts, assuring them that the government would not come after the church, okay, which is the opposite of what they would say. However, that was then resurrected by the Warren Court and the Burger Court in the 60s, where they said, hey, all of a sudden, we're now going to make this as if it's the Constitution. It does say in the Constitution 2 things, which is the Establishment Clause and the Free Expression Clause. The Establishment Clause is that Congress shall make no law prohibiting the free exercise thereof. What they were most worried about was a Presbyterian or a Anglican or a Quaker type religion taking over the federal government. Instead, it was that there is not going to be a state-run religion or a state-run government. Did you know that one of the first acts of Congress was taxpayer-funded Bible printing and distribution? Did you know that there were church services held in the Supreme Court building as late as the Jackson presidency in the 1820s? But going back to this idea of separation of church and state, and again, I could riff on this ad nauseum because it's just so ridiculous, right? Is that it's not biblical because, first, it's not biblical. It's not constitutional because you go a layer deeper. People that even say that, do you believe in separation of morality and state? Nobody does. So all laws are a reflection of morality, and all morality comes from somewhere. There is no such thing as neutral morality. And we believe what the founders believed because they put it in the halls of Congress, they put it in the Supreme Court, and they put it all throughout the country, which is that the Decalogue, the 10 Commandments, is the core morality of how a society and a civilization should exist, right? The 10 Commandments of every person. And finally, and this is the kicker, if the founding fathers were not Bible-believing church-attending Christians, why did they put Leviticus on the Liberty Bell? Not John, not Psalms, not Proverbs, not Genesis, Leviticus. Most Americans can't spell Leviticus. Leviticus 25:19, proclaim liberty throughout the land of which you are in. It is one of the most sinister, most unsubstantiated lies that does not come up against any sort of academic scrutiny, this idea that founding fathers were a bunch of Enlightenment common law deists. The reason they hate it is because the reason they must say this is that if we actually go back to our Christian roots and we go back to where we once were, it's America's best hope for revival and for a great future.
I can spell Leviticus. Leviticus. And sorry about those pop-ups there at the end. I wanted to let Charlie finish his last words. And of course, they suggested videos on his video, which they're not clickable links, but there will be some clickable links here in just a second as I wrap up this one. You know, I don't have a whole lot to add other than we should pray for revival in our country. And I don't have anything more really to add other than we as Christians should pray for revival in our country, that people would come to discover and find the peace that we have discovered in Jesus Christ. And hopefully you guys agree with that. If you do, you're in the right place. So please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, share this video, and like I said in the beginning, keep it in mind when you're having those discussions with family at Thanksgiving and Christmas and stuff like that, because I feel like this is an important conversation as it relates to the roots, the founding of our country, and what the founders actually intended us to be and how to behave and things like that. So a couple last things. Just got this shirt from Spring today. If you would like to support the channel, maybe check out the t-shirt shop down below. Otherwise, you can come visit me on Wednesdays and Saturdays from 6 p.m. to roughly 8 p.m. on both nights on this channel where I go live. And if I don't see you there, hopefully I'll see you guys in the next video. You won't want to miss it.